Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Sseujju, and with a bevy of topics.
Names are Ugandan, and you know that in NRM we even preach against identity politics.
Yes.
I'm just a Ugandan.
And in any case, you didn't give yourself the names.
I did some of them.
Oh, okay.
Those I was in Makerere with.
Yes.
No other names which I don't use these days.
Yeah.
One of them is Dickens.
Oh, Dickens.
That was the vote hunting name for me to become a guild president of Makerere University. Oh. Every lady who had it,
yeah, they just voted. Yeah. I'm a student of literature.
I have one of them here in the studio.
You have one of them in the studio. As Moses of a morning show would say, you're looking quite dapper. But we have a minister in the studio. Welcome to the Capital Gang, Honorable Dr. Musenero.
Thank you very much, and the only lady in the room.
The only lady in the room.
Yes.
My producers, yeah? She's the other lady in the room.
On the gang.
On the gang, okay.
Yeah, you have less than 30% women, which is required.
Okay. Well, Patricia is in the studio. It was her birthday the other day.
Oh, happy birthday
to you, Patricia.
Thank you.
And Honorable Sseujju will congratulate you since you're both wearing blue.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable.
Yeah. Okay. So, I always invite you, Dr. Musenero, when you have the Science Week coming. But this time round, I don't know. And you know, I have students who came to the Science Week last year and won awards as well, took photographs with you. And the Science Week is coming up again. But let me first throw in some personal things. When will your science solve Uganda's problems? For example, in Chigo, we've battled with electricity this week. We are battling with national water. Old Chira Road is there. Shouldn't Science Week be tackling these issues? Because NRM of Emmanuel Dombo is just not doing the things.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed, the science should be tackling those things, and we are tackling them.
Really?
Yes. Because those are products of technology. But we are coming. Some of them we are using the available technology, and sometimes it just needs a little bit of intervention, which you know that Uganda has come a long way from the time when we used to have load shedding.
In fact,
we had load shedding, but now,
Honorable,
when power goes off, you're surprised.
It is, you know, we are like a modern village. Solar lights along the streets, but we don't have water. We don't have electricity. We have a minister of ICT.
And you're near water.
Well, solve problems, and we are near water.
I think there is something local there which will be looked into. But let's get back to Science Week. Science
but do you
Week.
take the note that?
Yes, I've taken note.
Yeah.
I've taken note of that.
Science should help us.
Yes, science must help.
Yes.
Science must help. But so
week.
this week, starting tomorrow, the 15th, up to the 20th, Science Week is back. This is our 4th edition of Science Week. And we'll be at Kororo as usual. And we are transforming Kororo into the Uganda that we all aspire to see. And we will be exhibiting a lot of things. And let me begin by inviting first the Capital Gang. I would love to see all of you. We were checking outside there with the Honorable Sseujju. And the last message he sent me, he was responding because I had invited him personally for Science Week.
Last year or this year?
The last Science Week, which was 2023. So at this time, I'm going to send you the message again. Please, you are welcome to Science Week. There is even a special policy day. On this Science Week, this year, we will be exhibiting especially innovations and technology which has been developed. Our theme is from the lab to the market, from research to the market. Because we have come a long way, right now we are on the market. We are taking things that we started to research on, that we started to innovate, that we started to build younger industries on. And although we are still doing that, what we want to show you mostly are the things which are ready for us to buy. They are ready for us to sell. They are ready to address our challenges. So in the Science Week, we'll be exhibiting the progress with mobility solutions. I think you've seen the buses. And those of you from Ginger side, you have seen the e-bus express. We have even demonstrated how these
we
buses.
have some. Kira,
Yes.
We have those buses.
Yes, you've seen the buses. Sit in it. Sit in that bus and feel the difference. It's comfortable, more comfortable than some of our personal cars. We have made a lot of progress in motorcycles. Motorcycles have been playing a big role in polluting the city. So now we are making motorcycles, electric motorbikes, and we are replacing the borders. So come and see the technologies and the things that we have developed. We have made a lot of progress with drugs, with our medicines, with our... Many times people ask me, where are we? Some of these things are better seen than told. When you come, you will see the progress we have made with the vaccines, the progress we have made with the drugs. Then in these electronics, the modern technologies, the things that we are making, things that Uganda has just sort of been quiet a bit, but we have now started to manufacture computers and designed, manufactured here in Uganda. So please come and see the technologies, even the softwares which are running them. We have the engineering, which we call infrastructure innovations. Come and see what technologies we have developed. Uganda is exporting a lot of gold, but most of our gold mining is crude. So we have developed technologies to help our miners, these small-scale miners, the artisans, so that they can work better, safer. But we have also developed additional technologies to process iron ore. Every time we talk about it, we are thinking, who will come and do it? But now we are saying, can't we Ugandans develop technologies to do this? There is space. Sometime we sent a satellite, and people have held me on that.
Yeah.
But
it disappeared.
No, it is like, Hon Sseujju, it's like if you are raising a chicken, like a broiler, it has a lifespan. So even a satellite has a lifespan. But come and see the progress that we have made with, because that one we had made it in Japan. Now we are making satellites, our satellites here. Come and see what we have improved with that. Then value addition. If you have your broiler, it has lasted for a long time. The broiler is the sweetest when it is just those few months when it is alive. So is another one. So we are now building actually the layer one, the one which takes very long, which we have put in space. And the ecosystem, many of you have innovators. You have young people. And they are looking everywhere, looking for jobs, looking for what. Come and see the things that we have put in place to support those young people. Because many of them have things outside there. They are struggling on their own. We give a lot of support, not just financial. We give a lot of technical support. We are bringing all these things here. So we will be exhibiting our Deep Tech Center. Many of you have young people who have graduated computer in this form of engineering. Let them come and interact with the others. Instead of walking the streets looking for jobs, they can come to these centers and be supported.
So I'm interested in the Made in Uganda. Like, what products do you have?
So in the Made in Uganda, we have products in all this. Made in Uganda is where we are showcasing where we have reached with our products ready for market. That many people, when they think about things made in Uganda, they think about crude things. They don't think about refined international grade products that which are better than the ones which you are preferring to buy when you go to the supermarkets. So we'll put there a huge supermarket which is showing things that have come from our technology, our innovations, those which have reached market, those which have been certified. Please come with some money to buy, because we'll be selling.
So is it free to come into the
Yes,
Kololo?
it is absolutely free. You can come
No
on
green
Sunday,
trucks.
Monday, Tuesday. We don't stop you.
The green truck will not be there to stop us.
No, for your security, yes. You know what happened on Matters Day. We don't want that to happen. But they will be there to protect you and welcome you, not to stop you. You are going to come in and... I request that you plan to come for at least 2 to 3 days if you want to appreciate the things. And it is really, really good that you see what your country is doing, because these are the things which are taking over your economy. They are the ones which are you are now going to see. We are gradually replacing things in our shops. We are gradually replacing things even downtown. Yesterday I was meeting with the leather processing people, connecting the people who are making and the ones who are selling. These are things that are gradually replacing. This is the space where we are creating the jobs for the young people. Please come and let's be together. I'm shifting. During Science Week, I shift my office. I put my office at Kololo. So there are people who have been trying to make appointments. Please come and meet me there.
I'll send you students as well. Honorable Sseujju, you are interested in budget things. How much money have you given to Dr. Musenero in the budget? And also, is she fighting a battle she may lose? The reason I ask this is because electric cars, the tax is back. So if she's campaigning for Kira Motors and then the tax, new people in parliament put a tax on electric cars, it's kind of contradictory.
First of all, government has listed priorities in the budget, what they call ATMIS, agro-industrialization. That is, in those priorities, it represents science. That these are now the 4-5 priorities of government, and it has been like that for a number of years now, including tourism, agro-processing, ICT. But the allocations to those key sectors, all of them combined, is 4 trillion in a budget of 72 trillion. So the key priority sector in government includes Dr. Musenero's science. But the allocation, 4 trillion, all of them. Agriculture, I think, has about 1.8. Science, I was confirming there, I'm not sure. And I don't want to take her figure, is about 400 billion. I need to check. I have sent my staff to send me the budget for science. So these things, these priorities are as good as a slogan. But there is no actual fund. I mean, look, Oscar, you have a budget of 72 trillion. The key priorities in the budget, 4 trillion. And then you go to Kololo and tell the people that we are developing science. It's just a joke. So that's the starting point. But I want to take you back to history, if you don't mind, Oscar. Even the struggle we had in Parliament when Dr. Musenero's ministry was being created, the president wanted it at his residence, State House. Say this ministry will be housed in State House. We are the ones fighting, and interestingly, you see, these days, I maybe the scientist, Dr. Musenero, will help me. I tried to check NRM MPs. You go to Parliament, make a very good proposal, they vote against it. They meet you in the corridor and thank you for the good proposal. And then you keep asking. So Musenero, when we were fighting for her ministry, she was the one who was saying it should be resident in the State House. We said, no, let this ministry be independent. It should be made a vote. And we succeeded. But the one who brought a proposal, this Dr. Musenero here, had accepted that it can be casually handled by M7.
So you're the one who proposed that should be
a vote. They didn't actually want to create a vote.
And then RMMP supported you.
The NRM MPs occasionally, because even a madman, you'll meet him eating. So when you meet him eat, it doesn't mean that now he has become sane. So sometimes they do normal things that normal people do. You're asking something that is obvious. So you mean a madman dies? So the point, so I wanted to give you that history, Oscar, and then come to the real issues. So the funding does not commensurate with the publicity that is done around the science as one of the key priorities. And I have told you, even the priorities, because you have Kira Motors, I have visited. The complex now looks a very good complex. The first question I asked them when I went there, are you guys assembling or you are manufacturing? You have heard we are now manufacturing motorcycles. And I asked them...
And the buses we are manufacturing.
You are not manufacturing. I asked them, tell me the percentage of the Ugandan raw material into these buses. At that time, they told me bamboo tree and something else that comes to about 20%. The rest of the parts are imported. These guys just fix it and then put a bamboo tree and paint and on the street, and then they say this is manufactured in Uganda. There is no manufacturing there. But even assembling itself is very good for a country. Kenya does that. It actually reduces the cost of these motor vehicles and so on and so forth. The trouble is that Dr. Musenero, she promises what she cannot do, undermining where we should give her credit for what she has done. Because you have told me you're going to manufacture a car, and I asked you, tell me the raw materials from Uganda that you are using, and then.
But Honorable Sseujju, isn't that pedantic? If you go to a car garage now,
yes,
they no longer repair anything. You know, the mechanic. A good mechanic should know what to replace.
Yeah,
They
but a
just take
mechanic,
out a part
Oscar,
and
a mechanic cannot tell me that I'm manufacturing a car. That will be a lie.
Yeah.
So you actually agree with me. So the work that they
I
do.
agree with you. I'm just
Yes.
saying it's a small thing.
It isn't. It
Yeah,
isn't. I was in
assembling or
Ethiopia. I was in Ethiopia. I visited their military is assembling vehicles, and they don't lie. They tell you we assemble. They even have small parts. And the starting point.
I'm not going to buy a car from Ethiopia.
It doesn't matter. But I'm telling you what they are doing. The president went there. He was very happy. He said he had wanted UPDF to do it. They couldn't do it. They bring parts and add steel and a few things from Ethiopia. But they don't call it a car manufacturer, they call it a car assembly point. My trouble with Musenero is that hers is a... I'm not even sure that at this stage it is an assembly point, but he wants to present it as a car...
My challenge with you is that it's a small thing.
No. That's your opinion.
Has been assembling Isuzu for a while. And
yeah, so do they become the manufacturer of Isuzu?
In East Africa, yes.
They are manufacturers?
Yes.
Okay, maybe we differ.
Okay.
But
they build the body buses.
Yeah. They're just building a frame.
Yes.
And that's what Musenero is doing.
No.
So,
I make my own chassis.
But
I make my own chassis.
I want
you
to
allow me explain?
Yes.
If you are assembling a vehicle internationally, you will not get a vehicle identification number. That is only given to people internationally accredited as manufacturers. And Chira Motors has a vehicle identification number. Now, there are people who assemble buses in Uganda. There are people who are assembling other vehicles in Uganda. Chira Motors currently is the only company that has qualified to get what we call a VIN. So vehicles made by Chira Motors, wherever they go, they are recognized as vehicles manufactured in Uganda. I think we confuse sourcing imports with assembly. We make our own chassis. We make our own body. Every manufacturer, whether Toyota, whether Mercedes-Benz, they all source parts. They source parts. So Uganda, what we are doing and the factory. Hon Sseujju, have you been there since we opened the automated part?
I need to go back, but I've been there.
So that one I need to clarify to Ugandans. We are manufacturers.
I'll also clarify to Ugandans listening. You know, we call it chassis. You saying the correct
in science we call
French,
it a chassis.
But it's chassis. I could see Sseujju had noted.
So I know. So we have.
Update that.
Yeah.
I follow Formula One, these racing cars, and I can tell you, a car can have nuts from France.
I agree.
And
I
an exhaust
agree.
pipe from the UK.
I agree, Oscar. Now I am coming to the bigger point. The bigger point, they do that in petroleum.
Yeah.
You will go and do exploration, and then you determine whether the amount available is of a commercial quantity. That is what Musenero will need to deal with. That this vehicle for which you are sourcing parts from all over the world, that when you put it to the market, it will not be expensive, because people are buying and you are not doing them a favor. They will go around looking for prices and quality, and then they will determine where they pick their buses from. No wonder, Oscar, the last time we visited them, they had wanted to sell about 500 buses to KCCA, but KCCA had contracted another person. They said, we no longer need your buses. I don't know since you started, because you've now spent more than 400 billion on Chira Motors. I don't know how many buses, because at that time your report, Dr. Musenero, was that you had produced 80 buses. We had spent it, of course the money was for building the complex and so on and so forth. So I want to hear, and then we start, that today we are able, I'll use the word manufacturing because that's what she's marketing, but me I think they're assembling. But whether it is assembling or not, I want to know that the amount of money we've put in that complex, they starting next financial year, Musenero will be contributing this amount to the national budget. But otherwise, year in, year out, they come for money to go and buy nuts and buy frames and buy what, and then paint and throw some buses on the street and come for more money. So what sort of business are we? Do we have a comparative advantage in that business? And then finally, Oscar, these initiatives sometimes, they are very good initiatives, but the purpose for which you are engaging in them must be explained. And I told Dr. Musenero, and that's why I was not as angry with her as other MPs. Because science, you may spend money and produce nothing. Because that's what science is about. That you go out to go and explore, to test, to do this and that. At the end of the day, you must be frank. To come and say we undertook this experiment, we spent so much money, it did not yield anything. Science is about that. But Musenero will tell the country that you are undertaking this, wait for the product next week. If it doesn't, they want to lynch her. So as a scientist, you need to stop talking like a Dombo who speaks for NRM. You create problems for your own sector. Because Dombo will promise what he will not deliver. So their science, they first announce a product and then undertake the experiment. It doesn't work, so we are angry with her, because she went to undertake a scientific experiment that delivered zero, yet they do all over the world.
Honorable Dombo, after Sseujju's accusations.
First and foremost, I want to congratulate Honorable Musenero, the ministry and the government. You know, I was in Parliament when some of the things started. And you could have watched the members of Parliament who are so pessimistic about whatever innovations that government was talking about. But when you look at the human development and societal transformation, every stage of transformation was defined by advancement in science. Every stage of transformation, from primitive mankind, we came to the Industrial Revolution, we are now in the space age. Whatever level of transformation, it has been defined by scientific transformation and innovation and discovery. So when President Museveni raised these issues when we were in Parliament, even now NRM caucuses and at times when we were in Changwanzi, many people despised. There is a time Honorable Musenero came to Changwanzi with the other small car, Kira. Is it called Kira? Kira, and people disparaged it. People called it all sorts of names. When this gentleman, this Musoga man, the scientist who is making pharmacy,
Magola.
Mr. Magola.
You want to bring Magola, you are going to spoil our breakfast.
No. When Mr. Magola came in here to tell people that it is possible to get into the pharmaceutical world and innovate. People despised.
But Oscar,
And
Dombo, that man, we gave him money to produce vaccine during COVID. COVID ended without him producing even one single
but that's what you have just said here yourself. That science is about that.
I agree.
Getting money
Then don't
and
lie
at
about
times
it.
failing.
Yes.
So if science is about that, don't complain. And that's what we are doing. That progressively we have reached a level now. Honorable Musenero has something to go and demonstrate and also exhibit. So let's Ugandans go there and see what people are capable of doing.
Yeah.
And let our scientists be proud. You know, when I was a young man, I kept wondering, why is it that foreign universities or foreign countries, they are very eager to pick the brightest children in Makerere? All those who had secured first class and nearby, and were given scholarships, and they go to develop products, thesis, and so many concepts which remain the preserve of the universities they have gone to, when the countries they have come from remain backward and bankrupt. So these innovations, problematic as they may be, I don't think Honorable Musenero has made 100% achievement in whatever she has started.
No, and I never promised that, because then that wouldn't be science.
When I was in
That would be
Parliament, I
magic.
had an opportunity to visit the Boeing company. They manufactured the Boeing airplane. But you will see that the seats come from China, the body parts come from Indonesia, the electronics come from Israel, this one comes from here, but
the heart.
they manufacture planes. So for us, in areas where the manufacturing has already been done, the body is made and shaped this way, and it will be cheaper for us to outsource. What will be the problem with the Ugandan science outsourcing?
You cannot say you are manufacturing a human being and all you are bringing are shoes.
I believe that
let me switch off Sseujju's.
I believe that progressively as we move, when the petrochemical industry picks up, when we have started extracting our oil, a lot of things are going to be done here because the raw materials will be available. But progressively, we have so many Ugandans who have been proud of research, but all they can do, their research could only end up in laboratories. So if time has come for researchers to work and integrate scientific research with manufacturing and the market, then the Ugandans are going to see themselves as picking up as a country. You look at China. How did China transform and take over to become the second biggest economy in the world? They invested in science, manufacturing, and they became the factory of the world. Right now, if China closes manufacturing, you can see the chaos that will be in the whole world. So if Uganda takes a strategic position in the manufacturing and they start doing that, and the members of parliament support, I want to thank Hon Sseujju, because his attitude, look at his attitude as a member of parliament, is totally different from other people who go basically to oppose whatever government does. You can see he visited Kira, and he has promised that he will visit again.
We've hosted Kira here severally.
So he's going to visit again. I wish the capital gang could go also go and visit as capital gang, so that when I'm a part of the guests, I can also go and visit and see what exactly is happening. This is what the members of parliament should be doing. That is how only we can transform our nation. So, Hon Sseujju, I'm thanking you very much. Take the same message to your friends in parliament. Let them continue supporting the effort of government. He raises a fundamental point. But what would a poor country do? That actually, we are not putting our resources in the way we ought to, given the priorities that we have. But if members of parliament must be paid well, the public service must be paid. That's why you begin. If people must eat food, the medicine must be put in the. So there are areas, consumptive areas in Uganda, which eat a bigger part of our budget. But as the revenue performance improves, as the tax base grows, as the people appreciate the value of science, I believe you and your colleagues in parliament should be able to make a decision and put better money in those areas, so that tomorrow whether we are president or not, but the people of Uganda should live a better life than we are living today because of the work we have done.
Let's go to Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Honorable Abdul Katuntu is in the studio. Welcome to Gang. Came a little while ago.
Thank you.
Yes, just come. Go is one.
Little while ago could be 1 minute, 5 minutes.
Okay. No, okay.
It's good use of English. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Nora Waraga sends a message on X, formerly Twitter. Science devoid of humanities isn't effective. That is what is happening right now in Uganda. I would agree, because if I don't have electricity at home, if I don't have water at home, because both UEDCL and National have not delivered to me, and yet I'm hosting the Minister of Science, already that's a challenge.
Well, it's an interesting one. When does science touch humanity?
Yeah.
Is another question you want to be looking at, and how should science really blend? And I'm happy that we have, by coincidence and design, come back to the same desk with Honorable Musenero here. For many people, they will not know that the science that dealt COVID, the blow that it did, the mRNA, that science began decades back. And the people who are doing it in 1989, nobody cared what they were doing. Until everybody now, and they were there, the science was there, but the need came. So originally, if you get back to the 90s, talking about where should she be hosted, people may have forgotten that the National Council of Science and Technology was in the Ministry of Finance. For these very reasons, science must drive the economy. So they said, you guys don't just go and sit to begin splitting atoms. To what end? Can we know the development challenges we are facing, so that from day one, we are deploying the science to deal with these issues? The successes we have today in coffee, you have to look back at what the Dr. Chibirige Sebunyas did 30 years ago, building the whole group of scientists today. There was Kayovu, Masakana in the 80s, that coffee wilt. The scientists have been at it. So you don't just wake up today and say, coffee gave us for the first time we hit a 2 billion. No, there was science behind there. But the whole point is, how do you strategically not put too much into the development of science and forget the current day? That you're investing in how do you do water desalination, but Oscar needs water now.
Yeah.
You're planning to desalinate water for people in 2030, but what about Oscar today? And that's why I wanted the whole discussion in finance to plan and say, at what point should I put 700 billion in Tumagola to develop vaccines, but right now as we speak, there are no drugs for cancer in Mulago. So you want to balance that, to say maybe I should grow this gradually over time. And that's why Kira will have a difficult case for many, because you see in that investment, heavy investment. You won't see the buses as many, but the investment they have done in Kira, and that's why people should go there and see what they have done. But also you want to say, which is sometimes our antithesis in where we make policies, global value chains is where you want to sit as you develop some of these things. That's why we're saying sourcing. But when I hear Uganda, I must add value to my raw materials. Up to how far and at what point is a discussion we are missing. A piston is a very vital part of an engine, but a very small part, if you want to say percentage-wise, of a car. Now, these are the lessons Trump learned. When he says tariffs on Canada and Mexico, his first people are the ones he wanted he thought he was protecting, but he was actually killing them. So one of the best pictures that I saw, which was put out there to make Trump immediately suspend, and thank God he responds when the evidence comes on the table. He quickly suspended, because they listen to the realities. A piston, that's a small part. The engine is assembled in Michigan, but that's position number 5. The real part, the powdered aluminium, starts in Tennessee. Because you don't just get a piston rod out of the raw material of iron. And here we're saying we must add value to our iron. Sometimes you want to sell it out there a bit raw, so that people can divert it into many directions. Because the moment you refine it, you've lost part of the market. As I always say, the egg, do I want it boiled? Do I want an omelette, Spanish? A farmer is not going to determine all those details. So for the farmer, sometimes it is best his egg will sell only when it is an egg. The moment he changes it into something else, a bit of the market is lost. So these guys get the iron. So in people in Tennessee, crush it into powder. And that's where they end. The powder is sent to Pennsylvania to be turned into rods. It is still in the US. Then from there it is sent to Canada to be polished. Just the rods to be polished. Then from Canada it comes into Mexico to be turned into pistons, which are then sent back to Michigan to be fixed into the engine.
Manufacturer.
Now that same engine, other parts have come from who knows where. Now that is why we are saying that and in economics we talk about rules of origin. Don't come and say, I manufactured this thing, which is the credit now the minister has put out there. So by the time Kira gets to a vehicle identification number, it means a lot is happening within Uganda to justify that a bit of the assembly, but a lot is being done within the country. Now, we are advising our friends in government and elsewhere, don't get into deep into these things to say we must add our coffee value somewhere I don't know where. You might actually lose it. Some people want their coffee as a bean, target that market. It has taken us to 2 billion. We could have been at 5 billion if we had applied the science, Kibirige left breeding. Because the real science in Kituza, where the coffee is grown, says you can get up to 5 kilos per tree, 3 to 5. So if you have limited land and you can get up to 3 to 5 kilos per tree, that is where you should be. Then our 8 million bags would be like 25. But now most of the trees in Uganda are producing less than a kilo. What is missing is not that people have not planted, the soil is not there. A few things here and there, all of which are sitting in science. Which fertilizer do you use? When do you irrigate? But which clone did you plant in the first place? Now we have put money for a fertilizer factory. It's going to be in a location where there are no raw materials. And people are saying cow dung. Cow dung is not fertilizer. The science will advise what exactly is fertilizer. It may be a holding ground that cow dung you mix in nitrogen and other. So
We think the cow dung is
so
fertilizer.
for me, we are still haven't even given the science the right docket, and that's why the original people in the structure adjustment program had said let science sit where it is supposed to be promising us economic growth and tangible results for people. Now it went into a market, anybody says anything, I'm watching that fertilizer thing. We already Tororo and leave it. That one, of course, now we have started another, and I think in Campiring, at least Tororo, there was some raw material for fertilizer that people could talk of. But this other, you have also given it, also taken money. I don't want to say you have given it. Sometimes I know your limitations. By the time you wake up, the budget is set and the budget is gone.
And no changing.
So those are the things for me that really, when we are talking about budgets, when we're talking about development, you've got to be very strategic. Who are my allies? Now, the danger with which we are watching actually, Honorable Minister, electric vehicles, is the battle between the US and China.
And even the Uganda tax system.
Even the battle between Elon Musk and Trump. Because these are the people at the championing, cutting edge of driving motor vehicle. If they grow into complexity, because that's where the knowledge is generated. Here we are simply benefiting. We're not going to get the knowledge that makes a battery, leave around the raw materials. That knowledge is out there, then we can outsource it and bring it here. But China controls 80% of the world's rare earth metals, which are very critical in some of these technologies. So if they are saying I'm not going to export to the people who make the technology, but use Chinese as the hub for the manufacturing, you want to watch that space. It has implications on it.
Okay.
I will end with a message that Andrew Mwenda gave us the other day. We were discussing some things. An iPhone, really the manufacturing bulk of it was in China for purposes of just making the iPhones. But what is the value of the iPhone? 57% is in design and marketing. So when you say the global value for coffee is 400 billion, the bulk of it is really in the marketing to make sure Sseujju takes this cup at $2. The guy who does that is not the farmer, but is actually giving value to the farmer. So even when the farmer takes 10% or 20%, the other guy put in so much to market.
Don't complain.
That coffee. Don't complain. And look at the global.
Oscar, not lose that point. One time I go to a hotel in Saudi Arabia, and I begin pleading to reduce the price. And they told him you got it from hotel.com. They take 20%.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine just putting hotels on the internet?
Yes.
And you take 20%.
And that is how you saw it.
Yeah, they've reduced to 14% now.
They are on 40 because there are many other players.
There are many others who have come up to develop the apps. So for me, understanding that global value chain will tell you, where do I position myself? What is my take? But listen to this. That while the designers and promoters of Apple take 57%. This is 57% in 2024. That market was $390 billion. So even if I'm getting 5% of that because I make the leather case, 5% of 390 billion is good strategic alignment. So when I want to add value to my hides and skins in Uganda, to what end? I must already be looking at that. Am I targeting the leather in aeroplanes, leather in cars, belts, Gucci? Whom are you targeting? Because that will inform what would you do with this hide.
Dr. I'll invite you again when we have a discussion on oil, because that is a very good point you're making.
I possibly will not come.
Well, I don't want oil. Because
I don't want to lose my energy.
To what end? Honorable Katuntu, on microphone now. I know, one of your 50 cars is hybrid with
50 cars.
He has cars, this man. One of them is a hybrid, electric car and petrol. Dr. Musenero's efforts can be futile if the tax was returned to electric cars. It's a challenge she has, and if she doesn't get the budget she wants, that's another challenge to her. Where do you see her prospering?
You see, you have to balance two interests. One, you need to motivate her to produce more and have a lot more innovation, but at the same time you need the revenue, because at some point in time she might need more money to invest in high innovations and so on. And how do you get that money other than other taxes? So the debate should really be not tax-free maybe, but reasonable tax, such that you balance. You see, I hope in the next topic we are going to discuss it. I see many people, when they are looking at this thing called the budget, they are looking at the expenditure line. And that has been my biggest problem. And thanks to Sseujju lately, and sometimes, no, he has, let me tell you why I'm thanking Sseujju. One, sometimes people get so much excited with the style of his presentation, so they get lost out. Others get annoyed with the naughtiness of his presentation, so they also get annoyed and they miss out the big point. If you must raise money and spend, you need to look at the income. How do you raise this income? Where does this money come? Yeah, and I've seen it in Parliament, Oscar. Every MP standing up saying, we are missing this, we want this, we want this, we want this. Nobody is talking about how that money is going to be generated. And so if you are talking about taxes, yes, you can have those tax holidays, reduce taxes, but you not then have money to spend, including to invest. So it is quite a delicate balance. It's quite a delicate balance. But let us go back to the Science Week. I don't want to fall a victim of my brother Lumala Dickens. Why? You see, this thing is not about 1986, please. There are many, many Ugandans who have sacrificed, many scientists who have been at this innovation even before Lumala was born. I'll give you an example. The Public Agriculture Research Institutes in this country. There's this one in Teso. What is it called? Serere. What was Serere? When was it founded? Oboto 1 or colonial time? I think it's Oboto 1 and so on. And you have had researchers doing their best. Dr. Mumsa was talking about the Chibiriges and so on. The Chibiriges have come on to put on a break, but this house has been on for a long, long time. So colleagues, listeners, listen. These scientists have been doing a great, great job. Especially, cassava, cassava, potatoes, and so on. They've done it, including actually coffee. So these scientists have done a great job, Oscar. And I can tell you one thing. To survive in this world today and tomorrow, you need innovation and you must conquer science. Whether you are South Sudan, whether you are Congo, with all the challenges you have, there is no option. It is purely survival. And we must invest as a country. We are going to have mishaps. Science, you don't just come in and you're in the laboratory and then it works out that way. You are going to try and fail. But when you're trying, you're spending money. And when you fail, people say, but you see, we gave you money, but you didn't succeed. And so science is all about that.
Okay.
If you go to Silicon Valley, maybe the professors are very few there. Guys who have come up with innovations are actually younger people. Big innovations. They're younger people. But what government does is to provide that environment where the younger people with brilliant brains can sit, innovate, and I can't wait to go to Colorado to see what's going on. When you look at before you look at when you look at that one, you're telling me this killer thing, and some of you need to get this: the automobile industry can never be manufactured in the same country. It's not possible. It has never happened anywhere. It has never.
The manufacturing.
They come from all different parts. But there is what we lawyers call the intellectual property. That particular innovation you have. And once Chile or any of these companies satisfies that, then that becomes their property, and then that is a manufacturer.
Okay.
Much as these things are coming from all over the world. And that's what happens.
Yeah. We stop for a break, and when we come back, we'll allow Dr. Musenero to conclude on this topic. Welcome back from the break. Norman Magembe on X, formerly Twitter, says, Madam Minister, it should hurt you that young people who have studied science to become doctors are seated at home idle. Our listener gift says, in Senge village, about 10 kilometers from Kampala, water comes on weekends, but it didn't return last weekend. Science Week should help. So I like that one. Semugenyi in Kajansi says, we have some messages from Entebbe Road that bus usually has 4 people, including the driver. When are you going to legislate that all government entities buy Kira motors and use that one? Student at Taiba says, talk about our car. Can the minister give us special permission to drive our fabricated car to Kolo without traffic interference? How do you want to conclude this topic, Honorable Dr. Musenero?
Thank you very much. Thank you all the gangsters for the support. I would like to conclude by saying that I agree with Honorable Katuntu. Science is a journey, and we are building on a foundation which has been built before. Actually, for other countries like South Korea, they moved faster. They got to appreciate and understand these things and move very fast. And so they have been able to deploy science and join another league of countries. But we have now accelerated. We are harnessing all these foundations, all this knowledge that has been built in the country, and we are now turning it into driving the economy. We are along different stages in the different things. Things like Chira motors and the motorcycles, we have made a lot of progress. We are at the market. Things like the medicines and the drugs, we have made a lot of progress. And one of our leading companies, which I'm extremely proud of, is Day Biopharma. They are going to be manufacturing over 3,000 drugs. So we are going to cut the importation of drugs in Uganda by 60%. And moreover, we have brought in new technology. Hon Sseujju is shaking his head, but that...
So promised the COVID vaccine and delivered zero.
Honorable Sseujju, they did not promise COVID vaccine. At that time, they was just manufacturing sanitizer. Their factory was not yet built. So the person who was given money to research on COVID vaccine was me. and we have been working on it, and come to Science Week and see the progress. A journey is not made in one step. I want to respond a little bit to what Dr. Mumza said about where we go. And the way I'm going to respond is like this. There is a gap between the scientists and innovations and the economists and how they understand the economy. Now, this week, that it is important that we unite so that they can come and explain to us in a language we understand, and we can also go and explain to them in a language we understand. The development of the country is in between. So this Science Week, we have a dedicated day where we have invited economists, planners, policymakers. We are going to discuss, can science really develop the economy, or is it a waste? Because that understanding of how science works, because how does Chira Motors benefit the economy? It does not really exist in the current mainstream economy. Because if you're going to look at inputs via output and balance that, and say, we are putting in more input and we are getting, and this is an innovation, it is a younger industry which is growing, then you are missing the point. So we want to come and have a round table, and this is going to be followed. We have developed an understanding with the School of Economics. We are going to host these public discussions. How do the economists help the scientists to identify the beneficial innovations? Because we are missing that. We as scientists, we are doing the technologies, but they are the ones. Now, for example, when you talk about coffee, we the scientists disagree with the economists. And so we want to sit and talk. When the economists insist that we should be selling green beans, for us, we think there is a point at which we need to process, and we have moved. We have, for the first time, exported ground coffee, because for us, we have done the science, and we have seen the benefit of it, that we can double, even triple the benefit from a kilogram of coffee by roasting and grinding it here. So I don't say the economists are wrong. I'm just saying, let us come together and discuss. Then you talked about the taxes.
Yeah.
Now, when you
2 minutes, yes.
Yes, when you are developing an industry and you have an infant industry, you have to be very careful on how you allow that industry to grow. How do you give advantage to your internal industry to grow without undue competition from outside, without undue advantage? So since Uganda has taken the electric automotive industry as a domestically grown industry, we are going to progressively have policies which protect that industry and allow it to grow. So don't talk about electric cars as if everywhere, wherever it is made, it is going to be beneficial. And so I actually upload that. I upload that policy. When you are importing an electric car, yes, to protect the Kira industry. That is the purpose.
In a...
You first produce vehicles, and then you stop those that are coming. You don't first stop, and then you begin manufacturing.
I'm saying if there's some thinking to it, that's fair.
We are not stopping.
But Dr.
Let me close.
We are out of time, and listeners are going to be annoyed with me if
can
you don't
I close
mention
by
rabbits.
just saying
Rabbits.
Which rabbits?
I don't know. There was so much about Dr. Musenero and rabbits in the.
No,
2 years
it
ago.
was something to do with.
Put it to rest.
Not a rabbit.
Yes, that is just.
There was one we bought at how much? 40 million.
Yes.
The students, especially, I want to appeal to the students out there. When you do experiments, many times they bring for you white rats. You don't see white rats running around. The rats we use in the experiments are different from the rats that you see around. And the particular rats we are buying were very specialized rats, and we still have them. we bought and we are multiplying them and we are using them for experiments. So I know it was 8 million.
It was 8 million.
Yes, I know there was that excitement.
Why
but
not? Why don't we
my
begin layering those
reason
ones
for
instead of coffee?
Yes, actually, we are now working. We have built a center.
Yeah.
We have built a center, and we are going to start training people with this financial year beginning to actually modify them. Please come for Science Week starting tomorrow, 15th to 20th. See you there.
And,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to you now, Dr. Mumuza, on discussion on the budget. 20
Financial advisor to Minister of Finance.
Former, maybe you'd say, teacher of economics. I like Kaunga Masiko, one of our regular listeners, says giving 4 trillion to UDB was wrong, and giving 1 trillion to UDC should have been the other way around. 4 trillion to UDC, 1 trillion to UDB, because in his opinion, UDB behaves like a foreign commercial bank.
Well,
it's a good point to start.
It's a good point to start, but that's really, when you look at the budget in terms of numbers, you lose the point. Budgets are about strategy.
Plans.
Not just even a plan can be a short-term thing. The discussion we are having here of the likes of Honorable Kibirige, rest in peace, it's not what he began doing in that lab in Kawanda. There was a science teacher who trained him in the 60s. So science can be that far-fetched. When you discuss about the Boeings, we went really one time with Honorable Suruma and Whitaker had taken us to understand how these small entities in the west part of the U.S. sustain that leading cutting edge in terms of innovation and science. And these guys told us, the science is in the brains of those kids, and you have to identify them as early as 2-3 years. When they are playing around, you begin to switch the direction the children are taking. The psychology is studying them. And I said, the moment we see the direction they are taking, those who are going to get into the future of science, we give them scholarships for life. Nobody will ever take it away from them. And it doesn't matter whether this is Sseujju Nganda's kid, at that point we don't know. But we are looking, because that's a state asset. So how do you build those state assets? You begin to say the budget we are talking about today should be speaking to what should Uganda be in 2060. Because some of the things we are having today are the decisions we took or never took in 1986 and in 2005. The budget that we bring to Parliament, almost 40% plus, is for nothing, because it is debt. They have nothing to do with it. The other part is what we call statutory spending. Again, it is for nothing. The Constitution has already bound it where it is. Now, at the end of the day, you are debating really less than 5%. Now, are you budgeting? Are you planning? It is all hemmed in for you. You are like on this one-way road, and there is jam. You just switch off the engine and listen to KFM and Capital Ganga and whichever other radio is available for you, if there is any. Or you even go on your WhatsApp. And I see some people even they forget that the lights have now released to them because they had forgotten the road was still there. So the budget must be speaking for me to those. So when we say we have increased the salaries for science teachers, good signal, but what about the labs? What about the motivation of the scientists? The facilitation of the scientists? You come back and say, if somebody has spent years training to be a medical doctor and will fail that last mile of internship, are you in for science solving your problems? And I think what Honorable Musenero was saying, you also want to balance. This is why economy sometimes we differ with very many people, including what Kahunga is raising. If you are a parent, every parent who has decided where their child should be in school is not just looking at the tuition in that school. They could have afforded a better school. But they are saying, besides paying fees, which is a long-term investment for the kid, I have to provide food for this child. They need to go for health care. They need to have housing. So it's okay, I might want science of day farmer. But should I give 700 billion at this point in time? When, as I've said, there are already people in Mulago who can't get their cancer dose today. It's a very expensive treatment. 2 million a dose. And not many Ugandans can afford that. So you're beginning to lose them. But you have given 700 billion to day farmer in 1 year. I could have worked with these day farmer fellows and say, what is the nature of your investment? And economists, you do that investment, especially the ones of this nature. I will finance you over 5 years. Because I don't want to forget that I put all the money in fees because my child must be in school X, and then I have no money left for the food of the children, for their housing, for their health care, because you saw this thing. And that's why sometimes we disagree with some allocations, not that because there is no good point and idea. As we said earlier, it's okay to roast Ugandan coffee, but how much of it should you roast? Because you are going to say, yeah, I've roasted and sold. This is just a very small, about 200 tons. Even if it's small, the bulk of it must go raw. And then you are part of those global value chains. If you are going to get an investor, and we got a good discussion yesterday with the PSS Drama, look at the fellows we are bringing into the refinery. United Arab Emirates. They are not just bringing you money. They are bringing you that big knowledge of the refinery aspects. So if I really wanted to process coffee, shouldn't I have gone to the big roasters in Germany? They will bring the money, they will bring the knowledge, they will bring it. So I don't have to encroach on the government budget. But now you're going to begin giving UDB. UDB has 1 trillion. What is 1 trillion? Is that a development bank? Is that a kiosk in the banking sector? You have an economy of 226 billion. Your development bank is 1 trillion. I don't even want to call it a development bank. That's just petty cash in a big bank.
In the supermarket.
So it's going to get into things that you don't want to see. So you look at UDC. So really the budget is
That's
not
why
speaking.
Kaunga has called it a foreign bank. It's like behaving like, because they have so little money. Is that what you're saying?
You don't even have money, so I don't want to call it a bank. But you know, so the other bigger part, and I think this was strategy misses us as I come basically to a comma, is strategy. You have put into the budget, I think, what did we put in? 175 billion, what we're calling interest-free loans for commercial farmers. You are borrowing this money from Stanbic because you are going to issue a bond at 18%. Now, who is going to pay the 18%?
Government.
It's government. But also government, by borrowing from Stanbic, the person you are calling a commercial farmer, in the first place, has to go to Stanbic to borrow the original money so that Stanbic's interest will be paid by government. But now when this guy as an individual goes, because government went to the same Stanbic, picked out a cost-free loan at 18%, Stanbic is going to lend to this guy at 35%. His business will never even take off. So who is fooling who in these logics and
Oscar,
dynamics?
This Dr. Professor Mumuza is the advisor to, he has been, I don't know whether he still is.
Now he's a lecturer.
But he also we still advise. Doctors will tell you, don't do this, don't do this.
Yeah.
We have had accidents. The road has advised, please, at this point, drive at 100. You find somebody at 140. Now, does that mean UNRWA and the Minister of Works was wrong? They gave you the advice. They will even tell you, don't overtake. The line is very clear, continuous in the middle of the road. The road speaks. So giving advice, I don't want to blame the advisor, but the person on the steering wheel. What were you doing overtaking in a corner? Sometimes that person is not there because he has died. But also he has killed the others in the process.
Let's go to Honorable Sseujju here. You have, should I call it a minority report or alternative report?
But I want to congratulate you for that report.
Yeah.
You liked it.
It has very good content.
Apart from the beginning, why must you start your report by saying Museveni and Sseujju, both aged 80 years, presenting a 72 trillion? Is it connected with? Are there
in my training,
connected?
Oscar, as a journalist, a human being, the attention of a human being is divided to so many things. My job as a journalist is to draw the attention of that person to what I want to say.
You are an MP now, not
I am,
journalist.
but there is no training for MPs.
So maybe that first paragraph you could have excused the
That's what he was
80-year-olds.
communicating.
Why have you started with it?
Because it is the beginning of your report.
Exactly.
It isn't. But 34 trillion to be raised by URA, and you pass this in May 2025. It's no wonder now URA writes to me every week on a fine, a penalty, whatever. Most of them incorrect.
I think the policy of government, even when you read the domestic revenue mobilization strategy, they committed themselves that they want the tax to GDP ratio to at least raise up to 17. But at the moment we are averaging 14, sometimes even less. Yeah. So the point,
The highest has been 14.
so the Professor Mumuza can tell us why a GDP of now declared, because they keep computing it, 226 trillion. Why can't that GDP give us 40? Because in the development report, development plan, I think the target is about 50. I'm not sure. Yeah, because they if you have a milk, or a cow, Oscar, a dairy one, you feed it with everything that. So the production must commensurate to the investment that you are making that dairy animal. So this is what we keep grappling with every year we are in Parliament. Because if you go back to 2021, 2022, those financial years, URA on average has collected about 25, 26 trillion. So the tax collection has been growing by about 2 trillion every year. So the target
Actually,
they put
25 is the highest, and that
26.
26. Okay.
Yes. So the target that was given to URA this next financial year, that they will collect 34 trillion, URA will not correct it, and finance knows that they will not correct it. But they did so just to grow the budget figure to come to 27. Because if you read the reports of the Auditor General, all of them, because there is the actual money available for spending and then the budget, like it is with any budget, even if it is for a smaller budget, and then you begin spending according to what you have. We've never gone beyond 52 trillion. So the budget usually is 70 something, 60 something, but the actual money available, what we have borrowed. I was telling the Honorable has been processing the budget. In his own document, he says, first of all, money in the international market is no longer available. That so these lenders are actually concentrating on their own economies, and Trump has made it even worse. So they will not have money. And that's why if you look at the list of those who are lending us money now, the IMF is at 12 trillion. China is growing by day. China is now at 9 trillion. It is the second biggest lender of money to Uganda. And understand Chinese loans. This financial year, last financial year, China collected from Uganda in terms of payment 650 billion, 222 billion in interest alone. And that's why finance, they will prepare very good documents, I think, when the MOMUs are with them, and they will tell you expenditure that go beyond the revenue projections are a problem. But they go ahead and make them. But for me, Oscar, the most significant thing in the budget, my presentation to Parliament, if you look at the items, and I want you to mark this, the priorities in the budget, science, agro-industrialization, tourism, ICT, we are going to spend 4 trillion on the priorities. And then we are going to spend 4 trillion on workshops, on donation, on special meals and drinks, on travel inland, travel abroad. So the amount of money that you are going to give to 400,000 government employees who are less than 1% of the population equals the amount of money you are going to spend on priority.
And by default, those now become the priorities.
Exactly. So what is stated and declared is a lie. And Abdu, and I want to thank him. So when you tell the MPs that actually this budget is just a lie, then MPs will jump up, they will shout at you. Because how can you, this next financial year, which begins just 2 weeks from now, you are going to spend 960 billion, almost a trillion, on travel inland to fuel Dombo's car to go to Mbarara to campaign, to stay in a hotel. Because all these government vehicles that
last
you see...
week I noticed he has an escort.
Yeah, and why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't
Previously he didn't have.
Yeah, but previously was it the Dome of today?
Ah, okay. But conclude with that sentence.
Yes, so that's what the budget is, that the stated priorities receive less.
Yeah.
What is not stated as a priority receive more. So my fear is that this budget cannot take us anywhere. We will continue just surviving like a child survives on the street, because someone was saying that economic growth will be at 6%. Even children who are abandoned by their parents and on the street, they also grow but that's not the life that they want to celebrate. So Uganda is like a street child. Will just continue growing without care, and then someone else will proclaim that the child on the street is growing.
First pause, Honorable Katonto coming in. You know, I think next year I'll after Sseujju has written his report, I'll help him edit. Now, when he talks about 460, 60 billion going to, that's Rocco, 247 billion going to Congo. The introduction to that section, I will not read out here.
You should. It's a document, it's a public document.
This is morning
Already
radio.
presented.
This is morning radio, the public.
But if they presented it in Parliament, you are cheating the public.
So, but
there's nothing obscene about that document. Just read it.
Next year I'll edit.
But this document was in court.
Yeah.
I am not the one who invented. So that content that you see there was.
Edit will not read.
That's the problem. Just read it. Have the courage to.
No, not today. So 247 billion to Congo, 60 billion to Rocco, Pinetti, another 465, and I'll also not read his comments there. Yes. And he protests that URA may not raise the 34 trillion.
You see, sometimes you are caught between a rock and hard place, and it's a very difficult position to be in. Let us look at the 240 billion being paid to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. How did this arise? We went to Congo for both legitimate reasons and eventually did illegitimate things there, and the cost came to this. As you know, DRC took us to court, and we lost the case. When we lost the case, we were required to pay close to 100. $6 billion. Yeah, it was a lot of money. So we went and negotiated to pay less over some time, and this 240 is part of the part payment. What we should have asked at that time as a country, Parliament, many, especially members of the opposition, raised this issue. How did we arrive at that position? Who are the people who committed all these problems for us to pick the bill? Because we went there and started, one, I think it was about the behavior of the UPDF, both in terms of treating the Congolese people, but also getting our ugly hands to Congolese resources, plundering really. So who plundered? And because if government keeps quiet and doesn't come and explain to the people, we are paying this money because our soldiers who went into Congo committed bad-mannered soldiers who went there committed these financial crimes and so on, then that's a problem. So this is a bill which ordinarily we should not even be thinking about, Oscar. But there we are, there's a judgment against us, we have to pay it. Because this sort of judgments or international obligation can be executed. Tomorrow I don't want that the Uganda airline plane to be flying to South Africa and is impounded there, or even any of our international transaction to be garnished. So the other amount was about what? About Pinet.
Yes. 460
I think Pinet has been one of those sad stories in the recent history of our country. Because we've made noise. And said this thing has become a bottomless pit. And all excuses have been given. There is no accountability. Nobody who has a public oversight role has gone and seen what Pinet is doing. Then I get excited these days. I see many people getting excited. I am not. Let me tell you, Oscar, a hospital is not about brick and mortar. I don't know how Ugandans think. A hospital is not that sort of thing we are seeing that is coming up for the money we put in. A hospital is about equipment, it is about the human resource there. And if just putting brick and mortar has taken us, the first payment we made was around, I think, 6 years ago.
Last parliament.
Last parliament, the first coin we put there. But brick and mortar, which anybody can do it. Anybody in this country can put up a building. Any company, because it's about steel, it is about cement and sand, nothing else. But we've taken 6 years to put up just a structure, not equipment.
The specialized one.
Yes, not the specialized equipment we need, including the specialized personnel we might need. We have not, but we've sunk in billions and billions of shillings.
Just pause there for a second. I stop for a break and come back to you. Welcome back from the break. A bit of disagreement. Yes, Honorable Katonto.
So I think
I should tell you, Star Cafe, we're enjoying Star Cafe, so making our contribution
I'm taking Mukwanoko. Oh, okay. Star Cafe is their company that give us the breakfast. Yeah. So to me, this thing about Lubowa, everybody has sought an explanation. Actually, including ministers. When you talk to them, basically they are saying, no, let you go and ask some other person. We are not. I'm not so sure even whether Minister of Health itself,
I will not speak about it.
even Minister of Health itself, I think has no answers. And whenever you ask them, they are saying, no, please. You ask other people, we are not involved. Whether it is Dr. Chen, whether it is Dr. Diana, there is a problem with Lubowa. It is more or less like Oscar, what is happening at Parliament. We need to build that new chambers and so on. Last Parliament, we paid them the money, a full bill. Now, they exhausted the money without doing their job. Then they went to government, to the president actually. Say, we don't have money to do your job, but we had already paid them. So the president said, okay, maybe we should get government to lend you money. Buy shares.
60 billion.
No, the total is 200. We are now paying them over a period.
Yes. So it's like, okay, maybe we buy what we call preferred shares within your company. Not because the company was doing well, but because the company was doing badly and needed liquidity. So now government has to give them money to do our job, yet we had already paid them money. So these are the sort of questions Sseujju was raising, and I can see you also very reluctant to read it because you think it is too hard to read it.
Just the descriptions.
The language is in the judgment.
So, and I can tell you that's where the problem is. And I was saying Sseujju raises very, very big legitimate questions, especially about the budget process. And then there are those people who are excited, they're happy with the language he uses. Then there are those who are also annoyed by the language. And both of them miss out the point. But these are the legitimate questions we should be asking as Parliament. And I've got to congratulate him as the Shadow Minister of Finance because he has done his job.
He's also brave to speak about Sheikh Mubaje.
At a brave, Oscar. This is a budget. In the budget, Mubaje has 14 billion to pay because he sold the land in Zimbabwe. Idi Amin gave the Catholics, the Protestant and Muslims
I recuse myself from that discussion.
each 5 square miles. So Mubaje sold the 1 square mile to one buyer. After a period of, he also sold it to another. They had come with a court judgment and order to attach the National Mosque. So he runs to Museveni. In this budget, he has 14 billion to repay the debt. So my issue had nothing to do with the Mubaje, but my issue was with borrowing money at high interest to pay private debt. And then you classify it as public debt. Because even Rocco borrowed from DFCU, from Stambik, from everywhere. They failed to pay. The same applies to Pinet.
And actually with Rocco, Parliament had intended to call on the guarantee of the banks. Then the president said, no, we shall cause a problem with the banks. Let us just give them money. But these banks, I'm sure they should have done due diligence on the person they are guaranteeing. Because that's the risk they take.
And if it's a bad debt, it's a bad debt.
Yes. Yeah. They should be able to pay the price. Why should the common man, the taxpayer, pay a bill because DFCU was eager to get some little fees to guarantee something which they are not done due diligence about.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a common sense, neither does it make economic sense, not even legal sense.
Emmanuel Dombo, let me trust you to find the positives in this budget.
Oscar,
They are there. You always asked us the negative.
Oscar,
I'm asking him
First
to
and
present
foremost,
on the positives.
listening to the members of parliament speak makes me get worried, because I don't know
They approve the budget.
whether the constitution changed or what they are supposed to do changed. Because I was in parliament myself for 20 years, and I know that the rear guard and front guard and side guard that the people of Uganda put are the members of parliament. They not only approve the budget, but it is one of the few countries in the world where the loans are approved by members of parliament before government executes them. So our hope as people and voters are purely members of parliament who were given the powers of court in the execution of their work, either to summon or to invite or call for evidence. And this is something that we did for that over that period. And Honorable Katuntu here was very good. At times he was a lead counsel in some of the select committees. Honorable Sseujju at times he becomes naughty for political expedience. But I know he's a very knowledgeable person who can still help Parliament do what it is supposed to do. But going to the positives, without necessarily going to the figures, the other day, I met young people, and they were talking. Some of them were borders, and one of them said, "Chi Uganda, chi nyuma." Chi Uganda, the country. And even on social media here, there is a young man who went to do TikTok from Rwanda, and it has been circulating. And when he came back, he said, "You people don't know how beautiful Uganda is." Without looking at the figures and looking at how far we have moved, in Christianity we say Beneza, you can see the milestones that have been overcome because of the good work that has been done by our vision bearers, by the technocrats, but also at times by the members of parliament when they make decisions in parliament. When you look at the macroeconomic level side, you can see that there has been growth in the country. You can see this growth in individuals. Look at the members of parliament. Just at the ambience, how they look like, those who promised that they were going to parliament to fight against President Museveni, they ended up getting to parliament and getting transformed, either economically or socially. Those are the basics without getting the figures. When you look at the economy, our currency is one of the most stable currencies in the recent history. Professor will tell us how we have come to this. Professor will tell us how we have come to this. But these are positives. And the other day I read how the IMF determines poverty, that people living to $3 per day. In Uganda, a family can survive on 10,000 shillings. Eating a balanced diet, living well, and being very happy. So Uganda, although we have the other economic challenges, but within the means that people can work hard, even that little money can make us survive, unlike in the other regions. I was looking at the level of exports. I think Uganda is the only country in the region which exports more to the neighbors than it imports. And there are bigger reasons what this brings about to us as an economy. When you look at how people live, fuel is expensive. I swear. I live near the border here in Kenya. I was asking myself the other day, I saw many people coming to Uganda to buy fuel, crossing on the other side. Many trucks which come to Uganda prefer to buy Uganda fuel and fill in their tanks when they are getting back. Why is this happening? And I think this is because of the good advice done by Professor and team. When you look at our exports, level of exports, the minister was very clear and very, very happy. I've never seen my brother Matia Kasaija, Honorable, this happy when he previously demonstrated that the economy was on takeoff. But when you look at the GDP and even FDI receipts in the country, you can see that government is making progressive leaps, and it is the work of Parliament now to ensure that the leakages in the budget, because that's where our biggest problem is. What Honorable Katuntu and Honorable Sseujju here is talking about, we have a lot of leakages at the level of collection of the tax. The minister promised to do something and undertake some reforms and import technology in order to fight against leakages. But also the people themselves, these issues which have been defining here. How can Penetti keep taking money and you cannot get to him? And then you keep approving more. And you're members of parliament. Because that's the power of the past. That's what I was used to be told when I was a member of parliament. How can you be a member of parliament and you can't ask the hard questions? At least let them provide the answers. Because even when we were in parliament last time, and there was a very big argument at one time whether we should summon the president to come and appear before a select committee. And we had to get a compromise where the committee had to go to State House, meet the president, but the president
the president will come. The CDF
the president provided answers. But these days, you hear members of parliament, they are supposed to, even when they could use the budget as a sanction, not to do things until certain things have been done, they renegade. They renegade on what they are supposed to do. So this budget, to me, when I look at the various sectors that have been allocated money, you see that there is a lot that it has done to stimulate growth. The only challenge, now this as a beneficiary, let me talk about this. There has been some proposition which has been made. Government provides a lot of money, wealth creation funds, but also money to help private individuals like the farmers. I'm a farmer. And there is a group of farmers which had not been progressively supported, yet they are capable of transforming society. The small-scale farmers who have benefited from PDM, that has helped them to come and leverage, get into the money economy. But there are middle farmers middle group, which are capable of providing the required resources and inputs for the industries. Because these small-scale farmers may not do what may be required. When you go to northern Uganda, for instance, I'm a cattle farmer and I go to buy seed cake from Lira whenever I get some money. But you can find that there are many farmers who farm above 10, 20, 30 acres who need a lot of support, yet when you send them to UDB, the money is not readily available, or the requirements that they are supposed to fulfill in order to access that money. At times they don't, in which case UDB therefore chooses to give money to these people who build these things in Kampala called what? Malls. They build supermarkets, they build malls, instead of lending to the farmers who would be intended beneficiaries. So this is an area where government has provided some money in the budget to help such farmers. But the question is, will the money be reaching and will the money come? Apart from the bad side, which Honorable Katuntu and the Sseujju has looked at, the budget has propelled growth as an instrument for planning, as an instrument for strategic interventions like government has done. We believe we can do better if all members of parliament as politicians choose to think together as a country.
Yeah. Let's come, Dr. Mumza, to conclude this. I regular listener, Kahunga Matsiko says all these monies, women, youth, disabled, elderly, agricultural credit should all be pulled back into PDM, another version of PDM, no longer a 1 million PDM. Would you subscribe to that? And you must give credit, which has been maybe not so highlighted, that the Uganda shilling has been stable for quite a while.
Yeah, I think the word is stability is okay. You want a stable currency. But we always say at what level. That's really the economics. Stability is one side of it. For somebody to tell you your patient is stable, it's really good news. But you're still in intensive care. The stability part of it is good.
Yeah.
But I want to see progress. At what level? If they are stable on the ward or stable at home, then you can talk about stability plus where are they. Now the question we are really having as economists, at what level should the shilling be in order to be competitive?
Yeah.
Because the shilling and the dollar is really how you engage the rest of the world. China is being blamed up to today and for the last 4 decades for undermining the strength of their currency to be competitive. So you don't say China is where it is because they put dams, bridges, and part of that journey has been at what point should my currency be to be competitive. We are yet to answer that question in the Ugandan sense, but when I look at our trade balance, we are not competitive. When I look at the computation the Bank of Uganda does, there is what we call a real effective exchange rate. So you don't just go by this exchange rate you see on the forex bureaus. For economic sense, we track what we call the real effective exchange rate, which is really what is the level of your currency, the international currency, and the block of countries you trade with, which will include China, our biggest source of imports, not the destination for exports. It will look at India. It will look at Tanzania, it will look at the Europeans who are buying our coffee, the Kenyans, the DRC. That trend is not giving us a direction of being competitive. That's number one. And therefore that speaks to strength of the currency. We all enjoy our cars. It's not that because the tires are that strong, made of metal. Sometimes being soft is the strategy for you to manipulate. And that goes back to that question. So for me, I'm not discussing budgets in the sense of who got what. It's what strategy are you giving? The thing that is really missing in this economy is we haven't mobilized enough resources, both for the short term and long term. But even we have mobilized the money that should have been in the long term, we have deployed them badly. For NSSF, it's a fund, really, and should be speaking to the long-term investment opportunities for this country. But we have not given Patrick Kayota to convert this money into long-term investments that the economy needs. Because what is going to his desk? Invest in government papers. So he converts a young man's money who is 35 years and won't need this money for the next 15 years, so you can commit it. But because the young man and the system wants to post good returns, NSSF is going to buy a 2-year bond at 16%. Now you have converted your long-term funds into short-term funds. That's a distortion in any economy. Now the guy who is going to a commercial bank is now going to begin to borrow money to buy land. The loan in the bank is 3 years. The land you are buying will give you returns possibly in 15 years. So people are converting short-term money into long-term assets, and then we are converting long-term money into short-term assets. This budget just did that distortion and has done so for the last 15 years.
The James says, now I understand why it's called capital gang. It discusses criminal gangs.
By the way, I wanted to say the positives.
No.
100 is a positive,
yes,
and a half is a positive. When you multiply the two, you get 50. Right. You've lost it. So it's not about positives.
Emmanuel Dombo, social media is going to kill you. Because of the 10,000. They are on it already. He should be ashamed to say a family can live on 10,000 shillings a month.
10,000 a day, not in a month.
A day. Even a day is very, very difficult. But Honorable Sseujju, where I also may agree with Honorable Dombo, this EPS, those penalties, you passed them in Parliament.
No.
Hey, what happened?
You see, the Road Safety and Traffic Act allows government to do regulations. I don't know whether they call the supplementary, whichever word they use. So the law is there, but within the law, government can maneuver. So they were never passed by Parliament.
Yeah.
There were regulations from the Minister of Works. But the story, Oscar, started with the disagreement itself. You've seen the Honorable Jim Mweza and Otafire quarreling, because Jim Musenero has been the face of that Russian company for the digital number plate. As minister responsible for security, we are told the reason they brought that company is specifically to deal with the security, that number plates can be captured and so on and so forth. How it ended up in fines, I also don't know. And that's why Utafire was mad at it. I think the ones who brought it are similar to the ones who had brought and constructed the stations for inspection of vehicles. It had nothing to do with the mechanical conditions of the vehicles on the road. It had everything to do with collecting money. So that's why even that one was stalled. Even this one will stall. And I saw Museveni quickly, as usual, distancing himself and saying these things are meant to be for security. But government in Uganda, sometimes they will excite you. Otafire is in charge of police. How did the police got deployed to begin collecting fees? And the minister responsible for it says, for us, we have nothing to do with it. So we have warlords now, NRM warlords, but sometimes also depending on who they represent. Because the other bigger people, Museveni and his family and others, will hide. Then you are lynching Jim, who is thinking is the beneficiary, when actually the beneficiaries are some other people. So warlordism in NRM is what is bringing us to where we are.
The big honchos of people in power. Emmanuel Dombo, was it your idea?
Oscar, road safety should be a result of regulation, proper engineering and designs, and mass education. Enforcement just comes as the last step of it when all this has been done. And that's what we used to do when we were in parliament teaching people. I don't know how this agreement, because I saw a snippet of what is contained in the agreement, but I don't know whether this agreement was brought before parliament, either before signing or after it had been signed. Because when you look at the revenue sharing and what we're supposed to do, that's where the problems begin. But secondly, when the president talked yesterday, the other day during the budget, and then you compare what Honorable Tafwire said and his colleague Honorable Jim Musenero, then you suspect that there could be a bigger problem that meets the eyes. And the only people who can look through this, now that has been suspended, why can Parliament recall the entire deal and look through it so that they can help the people of Uganda?
Okay. Honorable Katum, pardon?
Dombo has found Parliament to be a soft target. You know it will not do it.
But why not?
Oscar, we moved the money we moved the money, and I sit on the budget committee in this financial year's budget from Magora to buy ambulance, city schools, completion of health regional referral hospital, including Mbale, that has a Sagiko ward at 92% completion. And Museveni said, so he arrested the MPs for corruption, but in a way also intimidating them. He said, don't tamper with my targets in the budget. You needed to be in parliament this year when the budget was being processed. But even a comma, the MPs were fearing.
But President Museveni is saving you, because in this world where there are no vaccines, and we're going to rely on vaccines that are imported, it is important, the science we have been talking about, you need to protect certain areas of the budget.
I know.
Let's go to...
Museveni went to Luzira to inspect the put there.
Regulation
and he said they will affect you and he ran away.
That regulation is important, but extortion and also unfair rules, that is really the problem. Even before looking at the income sharing.
Okay, there is a little bit of Katogo here, but let me explain why.
In the few minutes we have left.
Yeah, originally, this infrastructure was supposed to be between Ministry of Security and Ministry of Internal Affairs. Reason, it was about digitalized number plates for purposes of curbing crime. Really, that's what it was. However, the contradiction at that time, and I'm sure it is public knowledge, was between the Ministry of Internal Affairs and security. Because when the Minister of Internal Affairs tried to do due diligence on the company that was supposed to be providing this service, they found a lot of things in Russia. For example, that this particular company had never done this type of thing. And the company, they asked, where have you done it? They said in Poland. But at that time, there was a problem between Poland and Russia, and therefore
just like now,
it was not possible. So the Honorable General Kahindo Tafilo disassociated himself from that project or internal affairs. However, Minister of Security went ahead, I think with approval of the Attorney General's chambers, because you can't drain a contract without the approval. So they went and executed that contract. Later on, I don't know how, again, another general walks in. And this time it is General Wamala. From General Muhozi to General Tafile to General
Wamala.
To General Wamala. Muhozi or Tafile to Katumba Wamala. Saying now he wants to use this system to, one, now collect revenue. Looks like, because this one is not clear, that the payment for the service had now changed. We are not going to pay this company, but the company was supposed to pay itself from the fines which now Minister of Works and Communication was imposing to traffic offenders. Exactly, because now they come chaos. So you find these guys say, okay, we are going to collect this amount of money, but of this one, 80%, this maybe for purposes of paying
within 72
so
hours.
It was
50%.
I mean, it was just utter confusion, and I am really happy with the reaction of the public this time. It flatly rejected it, and I'm telling you, it was not going to be possible to have that thing implemented. We go back, but if we go back now, this thing has to be re-examined afresh, right from acquiring that contract to why we ended up where we are now.
Dr. Mamuza, finish the 1 minute left conclusion. Did these people think about Uganda's income? How much do people earn? I know Domba said 10,000 a day, for which they are killing him. But to pay 600,000 in 72 hours.
I think now you want to ask which people are you talking about?
You
because
people
when you
in
said
finance.
when you're saying these people, Honorable here has told even Parliament sometimes doesn't have the control over some of these things. But liquidity is always what you want to have. Because every time we're talking about patients, the doctor will want to say is their blood. Liquidity is the blood of the economy and of the businesses. That's why even URA will say Capital Radio, when you want to pay your employees, please, at the end of the month, pay them their salary. But as for the payers you earn, we don't want to strain you. That you can pay within 2 weeks. Because you don't want to kill the company. Let it pay its employees, as Honorable is saying, 10,000. 10,000 is the breadwinner. Behind him is 7 people. Because this household has 7 people. The 4 children or 5, those are the children, plus the mother and the father. So literally everybody has 1,500 to survive. That's not even a chapati with a gum of water. But that's your economy. And you have to live with that now. With such an economy, you don't pay 600,000 and within 3 days. Previously, it was 1 month before the penalty is given. And there's not even a court of appeal. You can't even explain and say, but I was talking on phone, and my doctor was giving instructions to a patient in theater where I'm running. Do this, I'm coming. No, the thing caught you, pay 2 million. You don't want to run things like that. You kill your own self.
So thank you, the listeners of Capital Gang. Thank you, Dr. Musenero, who was here earlier. Thank you, Honorable Katuntu, Honorable Sseujju, Honorable Dombo, Professor here, Dr. Mamuza. Thank you. We could have discussed Kenya, where people have been annoyed. I know you've heard about that, Honorable Dombo. Then there's Iran, Israel. That's a big story. So listeners, continue that. And I am Oscar Sseujju signing out. You have Rough Cuts by DJ Nyowe coming on.